So, ladies and gentlemen, that just happened. Welcome to the world where the Oscar ballots due date is moved down. Welcome to no DGA influence. And welcome to the world of online voting. So, I'm going to first just cover the count. I'm going to talk about the surprise nominations. And then I'm going to talk about how this affects and hurts some of the films. So, let's start with the count. At number 1, as we all probably expected, Lincoln leads with 12 nominations. Life of Pi follows with 11. Les Miserables follows with 5. 8. Seven Linings has 8 nominations as well. Argo takes 7. Django, Zero Dark Thirty, and More take 5. And Beasts of the Southern Wild takes 4 nominations. So let's talk about what the biggest surprise is director. Now, I cannot cover the scope of how surprised I was. Maybe you can see it. Maybe you thought I was overacting. That was my genuine reaction. We usually get one of these surprise nominations, and this would be a huge bombshell, but we got 2 of them in one day. The DGA, to put this in perspective, usually is 4 to 5, maybe on a bad year 3 to 5. This year, 2 out of 5 directors didn't make it in. And it's hard to say if this will really affect it. I'll discuss that later in that thing, but it is a huge surprise. Probably the second biggest surprise for me was Jackie Weaver. Now, once again, I was not overacting. She doesn't do anything in that movie. She gets barely 20 lines. Now, I'm not saying Jackie Weaver is a bad actress. I've seen Animal Kingdom, and she was really, really good in that. But this kind of is just Harvey Weinstein leaning on everybody and trying to get Several Linings into 4 categories. So that way, he can point to that, say it's an actor's film, and maybe take Best Picture. But, okay, next, Walking Phoenix. Now, this isn't a huge surprise for anybody, but I just found it necessary to point out how we've had 6 actors competing for 5 slots, and John Hawkes being the victim of it, most likely due to the fact that his film was probably the least recognizable out of the 5. Now, with Walking Phoenix in, how will this shake up the race? It's hard to say. I still think Daniel Day-Lewis is the front runner because The Master did not get a Best Picture nomination, not a Best Director nomination. So it's definitely hard to say, but I do think Daniel Day-Lewis is in the lead with others clamoring at his feet. So next, these are less big ones, but I just felt it important to notice it, that Mirror Mirror and Snow White both got nominations. Snow White is a terrible movie, and the visual effects really weren't amazing, and neither was the costumes as well. Whatever. Quentin, well, I'm saying her name wrong, so I'm just going to say that girl from Beasts of the Southern Wild. And it's not a huge surprise, but it definitely is nice to see, as a lot of people had her sliding out of that, but now it's good to know that she is the youngest nominee. So, and also in Best Supporting Actor, not a huge surprises. I actually changed my predictions to have Christoph Waltz in it, and I had all 5 supporting actors down. Not a huge surprise there, just important to note, no Leo, no Samuel Jackson, and no real surprises there. So I don't know why I'm putting this under surprise, but just I felt it important to notice. And the dartboard category. So really, we only have 2 choices in this category, unless against the dartboard category, so anyone can win. But we have Suddenly and we have Skyfall with some other surprise nominees, including Seth MacFarlane. So yeah, as you know, as you all heard if you were watching the nominees, so they made fun of him for that. And yeah, so now, how does this affect the film? So let's be clear, there's no more burying this year. It's impossible, except for maybe the exception of films that never had a chance in the first place, confirming their demise. But it's hard to bury anything. Les Mis needed more nominations for sure. It needed a director nomination. It really needed the screenplay, it needed the cinematography, and it needed the editing. But it's really hard to bury it. In a year where we have 2 to 5 at the TGA, I cannot bury anything. But this certainly does hurt Les Mis. It's a period piece. It needs more nominations. It at least needed to be second to have a real legitimate shot, so we could all talk about Lincoln versus Les Mis. But now we're all talking about Lincoln and Several Linings. Zero Dark 30. A lot of people who really aren't that familiar with the Oscar race are probably predicting it and are probably saying it's going to win because Hurt Locker won. It's really hurt here, and it needs to pick up the PJ or the DJ or something to revive it, maybe even the Critics' Choice Awards tonight, but it is not looking good. Argo, probably the same. The Best Director nod really hurt it. I still think it has a legitimate shot at Best Picture. It's been winning critical awards. It's probably going to win the Globe this Sunday. Maybe if it takes the PJ and the DJ, once again, we won't 100% know. But right now, Lincoln. So, on to films that have benefited, and clearly, the film that benefits the most is Lincoln. Now, Lincoln is just the definite frontrunner. It's hit everything it needs to. It was between Lincoln and Argo, but everything looks really pale in comparison to Lincoln. It has the most nominations, the DGA, the Critics' Choice. It is everything. And it's got the most nominations. It's the type of film that they're going to like. It really seems inevitable at this point, but in an Oscar season with this many surprises, you don't know. And I think we need to wait for the PJ for more light to be spread, but yeah, it's definitely in the lead. And Life of Pi benefited a lot from this. Life of Pi I thought was going to do worse at the nominations. I was even close to putting Ang Lee out of Best Director, but the DJs really just sealed him right in there. So Life of Pi certainly has more of a shot at Best Picture than we were thinking it does. I began discounting films, saying they couldn't win. I can't do that anymore. I can't. Oh, yeah, Amore. I can't do that anymore. Yeah, that's a bad joke. Beast really benefited from this. Of course, the Best Director thing is huge. It's hard to say if Beast actually is in the top 5 now. My predictions and for who's going to win are going to change dramatically after this, and I'd have to think for a long while. But Beast is certainly higher up there, and Amore, of course, benefited a lot as well. And finally, the film that probably benefited the most from this, even though it's not the frontrunner in terms of moving up slots, was Silver Linings Playbook. I'd actually put Silver Linings Playbook at number 3 or number 2, depending on how I move through this, but Silver Linings is represented in all 4 acting categories. It has as much nominations as Les Mis. It's got 8. It's got the Weinsteins behind it, and certainly right now, I'd say I've moved it to the top of the Best Actress category. Bradley Cooper's at least 3. In the Supporting Actor, Robert De Niro's 3, or maybe even 2 as well. This film could be a legitimate threat. And the thing that's scary about Silver Linings Playbook is that it doesn't have to win any of the PJs. It doesn't need to win the DJ. Maybe it needs to SAG, but it's a film that if it wins, it's going to surprise. So it doesn't need to win the editing award. It doesn't need to do that stuff. It's going to be a film that a lot of people are going to discount. Well, not as much anymore. But it's a film that's scary because it will sneak up on us, and maybe we can see it win Best Picture, which wouldn't be terrible, but it certainly wouldn't be very good either. So that's what happened after the Oscar nominations. It took me a while to compose myself, about 45 minutes. But yeah, so that just happened. Hopefully I'll get a recap video of the entire week on Monday because the Globes are on Sunday. And yeah, Critics' Choice Awards tonight. So thank you for watching. Goodbye.